Cancer. There is a complicated internal weather happening in someone right now, and I want to walk you through it carefully. Because the weather has two elements that may seem contradictory, but that are actually closely related. The first element is love. They love you in a way that has substance and depth. The second element is anger, or something close to anger, that is currently active in them. The two elements are not in opposition to each other in the way that they might appear on the surface. They are, in fact, two expressions of the same underlying truth, which is that you matter to this person at a level that produces strong responses to whatever happens between you. People do not feel anger toward those they are indifferent to. The anger they are feeling is one of the proofs of how much they care. The caring is what makes the anger possible. I want to take a moment to understand what is happening on their side, because the understanding will help you receive what is approaching with the right kind of presence. They have been carrying their feelings for you for a while, with various degrees of openness, depending on the period and the context. The carrying has not always been comfortable for them. Loving someone produces a kind of vulnerability that they have not always known what to do with. The vulnerability has expressed itself in different ways at different times. Sometimes it has expressed itself as warmth and openness. Sometimes it has expressed itself as a more guarded engagement. The variation has been them trying to manage the vulnerability without quite knowing how. Recently, something has occurred that has produced the anger. The anger is not directed at you in the sense of holding you responsible for some specific wrongdoing. The anger is more diffuse than that. It is the anger of someone who feels that their love is not being received the way they want it to be received, that the situation between you is not progressing the way they had hoped it would, that something they had been counting on has not materialized. The frustration of unmet hope often expresses itself as anger, particularly in people who do not always know how to articulate vulnerability directly. The anger is a substitute for a more vulnerable expression that they have not been able to make yet. I want to address what you may notice in their behavior during this period. They may be distant, they may be more abrupt than usual. They may say things that seem cutting or that produce in you a sense that they are upset. The behavior is the surface expression of the underlying state. Do not take the behavior at face value. The behavior is not the truth of what they are feeling. The behavior is what comes out when the truth cannot find direct expression. The truth, which is the love combined with the frustration, is more complex than the behavior is communicating. If you can see through the behavior to the underlying state, you will have a more accurate picture of what is occurring. I want to take a moment to address you, because the situation involves your response to behavior that may be confusing or hurtful, and I want to make space for whatever you are feeling. It is possible that the behavior of this person in the recent period has produced in you some difficult feelings. You may have wondered what you did wrong. You may have felt rejected or pushed away. You may have considered withdrawing from the relationship to protect yourself. All of these responses are reasonable given the surface of what has been occurring. I want to share, gently, that the responses may have been based on partial information. The underlying state on their side is not what the behavior suggested. The underlying state is love that has been struggling to express itself well. This does not mean you are obligated to absorb behavior that has hurt you. You are not. The honoring of your own limits remains important. But the information about what is actually happening on their side may inform how you interpret the recent period and may also inform how you engage with what is approaching. If you have been reading the situation as them not caring, the reading has been inaccurate. The caring is real. It is just being expressed through a difficult emotional register. I want to share something about why this person is thinking about you so much right now. The thinking is not casual. It is not pleasant background mental activity. It is the kind of thinking that occupies attention even when they are trying to focus on other things. They are working through something internally, and the working through requires them to revisit over and over the situation between you. They are trying to understand what has gone wrong. They are trying to identify what they could do differently. They are trying to figure out whether to address the situation directly with you or to continue managing it internally. The mental occupation is the natural response of someone who cares deeply about a situation and who has not yet found their way to acting on the caring in a productive direction. I want to mention something specific about the quality of their thinking about you. It is not bitter. Even when the anger is active, the love is the more fundamental layer underneath. They think about you with a mixture of affection and frustration, longing and disappointment, the desire to reach toward you, and the protective impulse to keep distance. The mixture is uncomfortable for them, but the affection and longing components are real and substantial. They have not given up on what they feel for you, even while they are struggling with how to handle it. This is Cancer Tarot, and I want to slow down here because I sense the situation has its own emotional complexity, and I want to make space for you to absorb what I am sharing without rushing to conclusions. The information that someone loves you but is currently angry is not simple information. It produces complex responses. Some part of you may feel relieved to know that the caring is real. Some part of you may feel uncertain about what to do with the information. Some part of you may feel resistant, particularly if you have already begun to move past the situation. All of these responses are valid. You do not need to resolve them quickly. The information can sit with you while your various responses settle into their own configuration. I want to address what is likely to happen next. The current state of anger combined with love is not stable. It will produce some kind of action eventually, because internal states this strong tend to seek external expression. The action may take various forms. The person may reach out to you, perhaps tentatively, perhaps more directly, to try to address what has been building. The person may make a gesture that does not involve direct communication, but that signals their state. The person may continue to manage internally for a while longer before acting. The most likely outcome, based on what I am sensing, is that they will reach out within a relatively near window. The reaching out will probably not be a clean and well-articulated expression of love. It may include some of the difficulty they have been feeling, mixed with the underlying caring. You may need to read through the difficulty to see the caring clearly. I want to share an orientation about how to respond if they reach out. The first thing to consider is your own state. Are you in a position to engage with someone who is approaching you with mixed energy? If you are not, you have the right to decline engagement or to defer it until you are in a better position. If you are in a position to engage, the engagement does not need to immediately resolve everything. You can simply receive what they communicate, respond to the parts of it that feel productive to respond to, and allow the rest to be processed over subsequent exchanges. The full resolution of complex emotional situations rarely occurs in a single exchange. I want to address something specific about your own emotional state. If you have been holding hurt or anger of your own about the recent period, the hurt or anger is valid. You do not need to suppress it in order to engage with this person. You can express what you have been feeling while also being open to what they are communicating. Honest expression of your own state is part of how the situation moves toward resolution. Suppressed honesty, while it may feel like generosity to the other person, often produces situations that do not actually resolve because the underlying truth has not been acknowledged. Resolution requires acknowledgement. I want to mention something about what kind of conversation might serve both of you if a conversation does occur. The conversation that serves you is one in which both of you can be honest about what has been happening internally, can acknowledge any harm that has been done in either direction, and can begin to articulate what you each want from the relationship going forward. The conversation may not produce immediate clarity about everything, but it can establish a foundation of honesty from which subsequent clarity can develop. The foundation is the important thing. Without it, attempts at reconciliation tend to be superficial and short-lived. I want to share something specific about why the anger arose in this person. The anger arose because they felt vulnerable and they did not know what to do with the vulnerability. People with this particular emotional pattern often respond to feeling vulnerable by producing some form of defensive aggression. The aggression protects them from the perceived risk of the vulnerability. It also pushes away the person who triggered the vulnerability, which is often the opposite of what they actually want. The contradiction is part of what makes the pattern uncomfortable. They are pushing away the person they want to draw closer to. This pattern is not unfixable. With awareness and effort, people who have this pattern can learn to handle vulnerability more directly, without converting it into defensive aggression. The handling more directly is one of the developments that can occur in a relationship when both parties are committed to it. The development takes time and requires patience on both sides, but it is possible, and it produces relationships that are more sustainable than relationships in which the pattern is unaddressed. This is Cancer Tarot, and I want to take a moment to address what your role is or is not in this situation. You are not responsible for managing this person's emotional patterns. The patterns are theirs to manage. Your role, to the extent that you choose to engage with this relationship, is to be honest about your own state and to communicate what you need from them. You can extend understanding without taking on the responsibility of doing their interior work for them. The distinction is important. Many relationships fail because one party takes on too much responsibility for the other's interior development. The taking on is generous in intent but ultimately unsustainable. The other party needs to do their own work for the relationship to actually develop. I want to mention something about your own boundaries during this period. If the person reaches out and the reaching out includes elements that are not respectful of you, you have the right to decline those elements while remaining open to the rest. You can say, in whatever language is comfortable for you, that you welcome their willingness to engage, but that certain behaviors are not acceptable. The setting of clear boundaries is part of what allows healthy relationships to develop. Without clear boundaries, relationships tend to recreate the patterns that cause them difficulty in the first place. I want to address a possible concern. There may be a part of you that worries about whether engaging with someone who has been angry is a good idea. The worry is reasonable. People who express anger in difficult ways can sometimes continue to do so even after attempts at reconciliation. I want to share an orientation about how to think about this. Engagement does not commit you to anything beyond the engagement itself. You can engage in one conversation and assess what you learn from it. Based on what you learn, you can decide whether to continue engaging and on what terms. The decision is yours, and it can be made step by step rather than all at once. I want to share something specific about what may be revealed if you engage with this person. They may, in the engagement, reveal a softer side that has been hidden by the anger. The softer side is the more authentic expression of what they feel for you. The anger has been covering it. When the anger has had a chance to be expressed, even partially, the softer side often emerges. The emergence is one of the more touching aspects of conversations of this kind. It can produce moments of unexpected tenderness in the middle of what started as a difficult exchange. I want to mention something about the long arc of relationships that involve this kind of pattern. The pattern can resolve or it can recur. The resolution depends on factors that include the willingness of the person with the pattern to actually work on it, the patience and clarity of the other party, the alignment of underlying values between the two people, and various circumstantial factors. The resolution is not guaranteed by anything. It is the result of sustained effort over time in conditions that support the effort. If this person is willing to do the work, the relationship can become something that is good for both of you. If they are not willing, or if they are willing but the work proves to be beyond what they can sustain, the relationship may need to be reconfigured or eventually concluded. Either outcome is possible. The signal that tells you which direction it is going is the consistency of their behavior over time, not the intensity of any specific communication. Words can promise change. Sustained behavior demonstrates change. Watch the sustained behavior. I want to take a moment to address a specific feature of this situation that may be confusing. The fact that this person loves you and is angry at the same time can produce in you a kind of cognitive dissonance. You may find yourself uncertain about how to feel. You may experience moments of warmth toward them, followed by moments of frustration with them in a way that feels unstable. The instability is the appropriate response to a situation that contains both elements simultaneously. You do not need to resolve the instability quickly. You can hold both feelings at once, recognizing that both are responding to real features of the situation. Holding both is more accurate than trying to force one to win out over the other. I want to share an orientation about your own self care during this period. The situation we are discussing is emotionally taxing. Even if you choose to engage with it actively, you also need to attend to your own well being. This includes maintaining your other relationships, continuing your work, taking care of your physical health, doing the things that bring you ordinary pleasure. The maintaining of these other dimensions of your life is what gives you the foundation from which to engage with the difficult situation. Without the foundation, the engagement can deplete you. With the foundation, the engagement is sustainable. I want to mention a small practice that may serve you. When you find yourself preoccupied with the situation, gently return your attention to what is in front of you. This person and the situation will exist whether or not you are actively thinking about them. The thinking does not produce the resolution. The resolution comes from actions, from communications, from time. Excessive thinking can produce strain without producing useful outcomes. So when you notice yourself caught in the thinking, gently shift your attention to the present moment. The shifting is a practice. It develops with repetition. Over time, it becomes easier to be present to your actual life while the difficult situation processes itself in the background of your awareness. This is Cancer Tarot, and I want to share something about a particular gift that may be available in this situation. When relationships work through difficulty rather than avoid it, the relationships often become stronger on the other side of the working through. The strength comes from having been tested and from having found that the connection between the two people could hold the testing. If you and this person are able to work through what is currently active between you, the relationship that results may be more substantial than what existed before. The substantialness is one of the possible outcomes. It is not guaranteed, but it is available, depending on what both of you bring to the process. I want to address something about how this situation will end up looking, whatever direction it takes. If it resolves into a stronger relationship, you will look back at this period as a difficult chapter that produced something valuable. If it does not resolve into continued connection, you will look back at this period as a difficult chapter that gave you clarity about what you need and what you cannot accept. Either way, the period will be one that produces growth. The growth is not contingent on a specific outcome. The growth comes from the engagement with reality that the situation requires of you. I want to share an observation about the strength you have demonstrated through the recent period. Continuing to engage with your own life while a complex emotional situation is occurring requires real interior resources. You have been providing those resources. The providing has been noticed by various parties, including by yourself, even if you have not always given yourself credit for it. The credit is appropriate. You can quietly acknowledge to yourself that you have been handling something difficult and that the handling has demonstrated qualities that will continue to serve you. I want to mention something about what may bring you peace in the coming days, regardless of how the situation develops. The peace that is available to you does not depend on the specific resolution of the situation. It depends on your relationship to your own equilibrium. You can maintain equilibrium even while the situation is unsettled. The maintaining is itself a practice. It involves returning repeatedly to your own center, to your own knowledge of who you are, to your own sense of what your life is independent of this specific relationship. The repeated returning produces, over time, a stable equilibrium that the situation cannot disturb beyond a certain depth. The stability is one of your accomplishments. I want to share something about the future of this relationship in either direction. If the relationship continues, it will involve specific work on both sides. The work will include communication patterns that are healthier than the patterns that produced the recent difficulty. The work will include each of you taking responsibility for your own emotional patterns rather than projecting them onto the other. The work will include patience as both of you learn new ways of being together. The work is real, but it is possible. If both of you commit to it, the relationship can develop into something sustainable. If the relationship does not continue, you will move forward into a configuration of your life that does not include this person as a central figure. The configuration will have its own gifts. The energy that has been engaged with this situation will be freed for other purposes. New people, new opportunities, new developments will fill the space that this person had occupied. The filling will not be immediate, but it will occur. By the time it has substantially occurred, you will recognize that your life has continued to be good even without this particular relationship. The recognition is one of the deeper gifts of completed situations. I want to acknowledge that the current state is not comfortable. Both of you are inside difficult emotional territory. The discomfort is real. But the discomfort is also the territory in which significant interior development can occur. People who navigate this kind of territory with awareness often emerge with capacities they did not previously have. You are developing some of those capacities now through how you are engaging with the situation. The development will continue to serve you in this relationship and in others. I want to take a moment to address you with directness. You are loved. The loving may be complicated, but it is real. The complication does not negate the loving. You can hold both the reality of being loved and the reality of the complication simultaneously, without having to collapse one into the other. The holding is one of the practices of mature emotional life. It allows you to receive what is real while remaining accurate about the complexity. I want to share what I think is the most important orientation for the coming days. Continue to be present to your own life. Continue to attend to your own well-being. Do not put your life on hold in anticipation of what this person will or will not do. They will do what they will do in their own time. Your life is yours to live, regardless of what they do. The continuing to live your life is the foundation from which any engagement with them can occur. Without the foundation, the engagement can become destabilizing. With the foundation, the engagement can be productive. If they reach out, you can decide whether and how to engage. If they do not reach out, your life continues without that engagement. Either is workable. You are not at the mercy of their choices. You have your own choices to make, and the choices remain yours to make regardless of what they do. Here on Cancer Tarot, the emphasis I want to leave with you is this. The love is real, the anger is also real. The combination is uncomfortable, but it is not necessarily a problem. Many significant relationships pass through periods where both elements are active at once. The passage through such periods can produce deeper connections if both parties are willing to do the necessary work. The willingness is what determines the outcome. You can bring your willingness to whatever engagement occurs. You cannot manufacture the other person's willingness. They have to bring it themselves. I want to share an observation about a particular feature of the situation. The fact that this person is currently angry tells you something positive that may not be obvious. It tells you that they care enough about the situation to feel strongly about it. People who do not care do not become angry. They simply drift away. The anger is engagement, even when it is uncomfortable engagement. The engagement contains the seed of possible resolution, if it can be channeled into more productive forms. The channeling may or may not occur, but the engagement is there, which is more than the absence of engagement. I want to mention something about the experience of being thought about by this person at the level I have been describing. Being on the receiving end of someone's substantial mental occupation can be a complicated experience. You may sense it, even when you do not have specific information about it. The sensing may produce in you a kind of background awareness of the connection, even during periods when there is no active communication. The awareness is real. It is part of how connections of this depth operate. Honor the awareness when you notice it, without letting it take over your attention. I want to address one more thing before closing. The situation we have been discussing will resolve in some direction in its own time. Resolution does not necessarily mean reconciliation. Resolution means that the current uncomfortable state will not continue indefinitely. Some movement will occur. The movement may be toward repair or it may be toward completion. Either is a form of resolution. You will see over the coming period which direction the movement takes. The seeing will give you the information you need to engage with whatever next phase emerges. You are equipped for this. The equipping has been developing through everything you have lived. The capacity to navigate complex emotional situations is one of the things you have developed. The capacity will be activated by what is occurring. The activation will produce the right responses. The right responses will lead to whatever outcome is meant to occur. The outcome will be survivable. The outcome may even be transformative in directions that are good for you. Trust the unfolding. The unfolding has its own intelligence, which has access to information that you do not always have access to consciously. The intelligence is operating in your favor. Walk through the coming days with the awareness that you are loved, that the love is being expressed in a difficult register at the moment, and that the situation will move in some direction in its own time. Your role is to be present to your own life, to attend to your own well-being, and to engage with whatever comes from the other person in a way that honors both your own truth and the reality of what is being communicated. The combination of self-honor and receptivity is the practice. The practice will produce the right outcomes in alignment with who you are and with what you actually want from your relationships. You are not alone in this. The unseen is with you in ways that operate beyond visible support. The unseen has been arranging conditions that will eventually clarify what is approaching. The clarification will come. Until it comes, you can rest in the knowledge that the underlying truth of the situation is more positive than the surface has been suggesting. The truth is that someone loves you, that they are working through something difficult, and that the situation is moving toward resolution rather than away from it. The movement may be slower than you would prefer, but it is real. Trust yourself. Trust the unfolding. Trust the love that is at the foundation of the difficulty. The love is the more durable element. The anger will pass. What remains on the other side of the anger is the love. The love can find a healthier form of expression once the anger has had a chance to be processed. The healthier expression is one of the possibilities approaching you, depending on the choices both of you make. You are loved. The loving is real. The current difficulty does not change the underlying truth. Walk forward with this knowledge. The knowledge is a foundation. From the foundation, the next steps will become clear in their own time, with their own particular form. The form will be good in the larger sense, regardless of what the immediate next steps look like. Trust this. Live in this. The continuing is the practice. The practice is enough.